Locked me in basement during labor. Unwed mothers deserve to suffer until neighbor heard screams. The first contraction hit at 3 p.m., a tight band of pressure that made me grip the basement railing. I'd been feeling off all morning, but I thought it was just the stress of my situation. 8 months pregnant, unmarried, living in my parents' basement because they'd rather hide me than let their church friends know their 25-year-old daughter had committed the ultimate sin. Mom, I called up the stairs. I think something's happening. She appeared at the top, her church dress still pristine from morning service. What now, Rebecca? I'm having contractions. I think the baby's coming. She descended halfway, studying me with the cold calculation I'd grown used to over the past months. You're not due for 3 weeks. Stop being dramatic. Another contraction rolled through me, stronger this time. I doubled over, breathing hard. This is real. I need to go to the hospital. That's when my father appeared, his massive frame blocking the light from upstairs. Hospital? So everyone can see what you've done? See our shame walking through the emergency room? Dad, please. God is punishing you, he said, his voice the same tone he used for his sermons at our fundamentalist church. Unwed mothers deserve to suffer. This is his judgment for your fornication. I tried to climb the stairs, but he blocked my path. Move, I gasped as another contraction hit. This is my first baby. I need medical help. What you need, he said, pushing me backward, is to understand consequences. The basement door slammed. The lock clicked, the heavy deadbolt they'd installed when I moved back home, claiming it was for my protection but really to control when I could leave. I heard my mother's voice, muffled, turn up the television, Harold. The neighbors don't need to hear her carrying on. The sound of the TV blared, a football game, volume maxed out. They were drowning me out. Panic rose in my throat. The basement had no windows at ground level, just small glass blocks near the ceiling for light. No phone, they'd taken my cell when I moved in, saying I didn't need outside influences. No way out except through that locked door. Another contraction, sharper now. I checked my watch, only 6 minutes since the last one. This was happening fast. Too fast. I pounded on the door. Please. The baby needs help. I need help. You should have thought of that before spreading your legs, my mother called back. Consider this your penance. I searched the basement desperately. An old flip phone hidden behind the washing machine, but no signal in the concrete walls. The small bathroom with a shower. A fold-out couch that had been my bed for 5 months. Nothing that could help. The contractions were coming faster now, each one stealing my breath. I tried to remember the birthing classes I'd watched secretly online before they discovered my internet use and removed the router. Breathe through it. Don't panic. But those classes assumed you'd have help, medical care, someone who gave a damn if you lived or died. I screamed as the next contraction peaked, not intentionally, but my body had taken over. Pure, primal sound ripped from my throat. Turn it louder. I heard my father shout. The TV volume increased until the basement walls vibrated with it. That's when I remembered Mrs. Eleanor Watts next door. 73 years old, always gardening, always watching the neighborhood with sharp eyes. Her bedroom window faced our house. If I could just make enough noise near the exterior wall, I dragged myself to the far corner of the basement, where I knew her house was closest. The contractions were maybe 4 minutes apart now. Each one felt like my body was tearing itself apart. I screamed against the wall. Banged on the concrete. Screamed again. Nothing. The TV was minutes, maybe less. She swore, actually swore. I'm coming in. The door, they'll stop you. Let them try. She disappeared. I heard her at our front door, pounding. The TV volume decreased slightly. Muffled voices, angry from my father, firm from Eleanor. Then nothing. The TV went back up. But Eleanor wasn't done. Within minutes, I heard sirens. Multiple sirens. The TV suddenly cut off. What the hell, my father's voice, then footsteps on the basement stairs. The lock turned. The door opened to chaos. 3 police officers, 2 EMTs with a stretcher, and Eleanor Watts pushing past my father with the fury of an avenging angel. Basement birth, she was telling the EMTs. First baby, water broken, contractions at 3 minutes. She's been locked down here against her will. She's being dramatic, my mother started. Ma'am, one officer interrupted, step aside. This is a medical emergency. The EMTs reached me just as another contraction hit. One checked me quickly. She's at 8 centimeters. We need to move now. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, Eleanor stayed by my side. I've been listening for months, she whispered. The crying, the lock clicking, them bringing down 1 meal a day. I documented everything, honey. Everything. They carried me up through the living room, past my parents who stood frozen. My father tried one last time, she's our daughter. This is a family matter. Your daughter is in active labor after being imprisoned in a basement, the lead officer said. That's false imprisonment, child endangerment, and reckless endangerment. Don't move. We'll be back. The ride to the hospital was a blur of contractions and Eleanor's steady voice. She held my hand while EMTs worked, telling me about her decades delivering babies, how strong I was, how everything would be okay. How did you know? I gasped between contractions. Honey, I've delivered over 3,000 babies. I know labor screams from stubbing your toe screams. And when your parents turned that TV up to drown you out? That's when I knew it was deliberate. My son was born 40 minutes after reaching the hospital. 6 pounds, 2 ounces of perfect, screaming life. They let Eleanor cut the cord, she'd earned that right by saving us both. But the real reckoning came later. As I held my baby, Officer Janet Mills took my statement. She was thorough, professional, and quietly furious. Your neighbor has been documenting everything, she said. Photos of them carrying down 1 meal a day. Audio recordings of you crying. Video of your father installing that deadbolt. She's been building a case, waiting for something actionable. Why didn't she call before? Officer Mills looked uncomfortable. She tried. 3 times. Each time, your parents convinced responding officers you were mentally ill, that the basement was for your safety. Without proof of immediate danger, we couldn't act, but locking me in during labor is attempted murder, potentially ×2. They knew you were in labor. They prevented you from seeking medical care. If Mrs. Watts hadn't intervened, you and your baby could have died. The charges were extensive. False imprisonment. Reckless endangerment. Child endangerment. I was still technically their dependent. Attempted murder was considered but ultimately reduced to aggravated assault. But the real shock came when Eleanor revealed the full extent of what she'd documented. Months of recordings from her garden, picking up my cries. Photos of my father carrying down single plates of food. A journal documenting every time she heard that lock click. The day you moved back, she testified at trial, I watched them install that lock. Harold told me it was because Rebecca was unstable. But unstable people don't get locked in. They get help. My parents' church abandoned them immediately. Turns out, imprisoning your pregnant daughter doesn't align with even fundamentalist values. My father lost his position as deacon. My mother was removed from the women's ministry. The trial was swift. Their defense attorney tried to argue religious freedom, that they were following their interpretation of biblical punishment. The prosecutor, a woman named Lydia Cross who'd grown up in a similar church, destroyed that argument. Show me the verse, she challenged, where Christ advocates locking pregnant women in basements. Show me where he says to deny medical care to laboring mothers. My father actually tried to quote scripture about unwed mothers until Judge Harrison cut him off. Mr. Conway, your daughter could have died. Your grandson could have died. Your religion doesn't supersede the law or basic human decency. They were both sentenced to 5 years. The look of shock on their faces when the verdict was read, they genuinely believed their standing in the community would protect them. Eleanor became more than my savior, she became family. Real family. She was there when I named my son, Elijah Frederick Watts Conway. The Watts was for her, the woman who'd broken glass to save us. You don't have to, she'd protested. You listened when no one else would. You fought when everyone else looked away. That's what family does. She helped me find an apartment, get established, file for victims' compensation. She babysat while I returned to the nursing program my parents had forced me to quit. She stood beside me at graduation, holding Eli, both of them cheering as I walked across that stage. The house next door to Eleanor went up for sale, my parents, seized in the civil suit. Eleanor's nephew bought it and rented it to me at below market rate. Now I live next door to the woman who saved me, our kitchen windows facing each other. Every morning, we wave over coffee. Every evening, she comes for dinner. Eli is 3 now. He calls her Grandma Ellie. She's teaching him to garden, to listen for birds, to pay attention when something seems wrong. Heroes notice things, she tells him. Heroes act when others won't. My parents were released after 3 years. They sent one letter, not apologizing but claiming I'd destroyed their lives over a misunderstanding. I didn't respond, but Eleanor did. She sent them a photo from Eli's 3rd birthday party. The yard full of people, nurses from my work, mothers from playgroup, neighbors who'd become friends. All the family we'd built without them. The cake read, "Love doesn't lock doors." She wrote on the back, "This is what family looks like. It protects, supports, and celebrates. It doesn't imprison. Rebecca has a beautiful life now, no thanks to you. Don't contact her again." They haven't. Sometimes I think about that day, laboring alone in a basement, terrified I'd die there. But then I look at Eli playing in Eleanor's garden, and I remember that the worst day of my life introduced me to the best person in it. Eleanor Watts. Retired midwife. Vigilant neighbor. The woman who heard screams through concrete and television noise and recognized them for what they were, not sin being punished, but a woman needing help. She broke glass for me. She broke laws for me. She broke the silence that my parents counted on. Why? I asked her once. Why did you fight so hard for someone you barely knew? She looked at Eli, then at me. Because I've delivered thousands of babies, but I've also lost a few. Lost mothers too. Always to preventable things, poverty, abuse, neglect. I swore 40 years ago I'd never let it happen on my watch again. Your parents thought a basement could muffle your screams. They didn't know I'd spent a lifetime learning to hear them. The basement is gone now. Eleanor's nephew renovated it into a bright playroom for Eli. Where I once labored alone, children now play in sunlight. That's the thing about darkness, it only wins if no one breaks the glass to let light in.